book lovers. We're going to talk about all the books that I read in August, and I don't think we'll be here for long because reading wise, August wasn't my best month. I was even debating if I should talk about all these books because there's so little, if I should just combine it with September, but I love to have it all wrapped up in a month. And it's also a good reminder that if you don't read a lot, it's not about the numbers. It's about how you enjoy reading the books that you read or even listen to as audiobooks. And I'm sure I'm not alone with getting stressed out about how much other people read. And I always have to remember myself that it just doesn't matter. It's not about how much someone reads. And that's why I thought, I read 4 books this month and I'm still going to talk about the 4 books I read in August. And sometimes life happens and we don't really get the time. And life-wise, I did have a great month in August. I mean, it's my birthday month, except for the beginning where I was really sick and I couldn't really read. That sucked, but other than that, August was really, really great. But that also meant reading took a back burner. And you'll see in my stats. I read 4 books, but one I listened to as an audiobook. So counting only the pages of the books that I've read, I come up with around 1,200 pages. And that's like a really, really, really thick book. And I feel like I can still feel good about that. So we'll take it. And all 4 books have like a different rating. We still have a range and it comes up to like the average rating of 3.19. And in terms of genre, I read 2 contemporary romances and 2 fantasies, and also 2 out of these books were part of series and 2 were true standalones. And I had 6 books on my monthly TBR for August, and since I didn't even read 6, I also didn't complete the TBR, and I only read 2 that were part of my monthly TBR. And I'm quite sad because I had an amazing TBR, but I'm currently actually reading Daydream and I'm gonna read Yours Truly next, so I will get to those books because I really loved my August TBR, so don't worry, I'll get there. But now let's jump into the first book that I read in August, and that one was a bit random, I will admit. It's Wrath of the Damned by Ella Fields, and it's the second one in the duology. I can't remember the title of the first one, but I'll put it up as well. And I read that a few weeks ago, and it wasn't like my absolute favorite read, but since it's just a duology, I kind of just wanted it to be wrapped up. And the thing is, with the first one, I had kind of the similar problem that I feel like the pacing wasn't the best in the book. And the first book really took off at the end, and I thought we were gonna get like a great plot now. But again, in the second one, we did continue where we stopped, but just all the action and all the stuff that I thought would be happening now, like she took it all away kind of and slowed it down again. And I just wished we had more of an like action-packed story, but this is really, I would say, much more about the romance. So in terms of what the first book is about, we have, I don't know, is it Fella? I think that's her name, who's a changeling in the human realm, and she gets approached by one of the kings of the fairylands, and he basically wants to give her everything she ever wanted, and that's to answer all her questions about her family, where she's really from, just to understand her more. And in exchange for that, she is supposed to marry him. So she needs to go with him and live with him. And she knows that there are risks, but she's willing to take them. And she's also very much attracted to this dark mystery king. But as soon as she leaves with him and starts living in his kingdom, she notices that something is wrong and people treat her like the enemy. And I actually gave the second book only 2.75, just because, as I said, I think the plot just really was lacking. And I'm someone who loves a romance. I'm not usually upset when the romance overtakes the fantasy element, but in this part I feel like the romance was almost more lust, and I was just really not invested in them. Just the way it was told, it was very much passion driven and not that deeply emotional. So I think it will probably be a while if I ever pick up another Ella Fields book. It was my first experience with her, and I'm not saying that I'll never read anything by her, but it's not going to be a priority. After that, I finally read The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. The reason why I read this month is that this is my pick for the book club I have with my girls. I've never read it before, but I heard so many good things, and I thought this would be like a good book club pick. It's also kind of out of everyone's comfort zone, and I wanted to find something that would open up bigger discussions, and I think this book really delivered on that. I also have a reading vlog and the book club meeting up on my channel, so I will link the video below if you're interested in more of my deeper thoughts of this book. But I can already tell you, I absolutely love this book. I gave this a 4.5, and why it's not a 5-star read is that I just didn't love the ending, and I think it's still beautiful, and I understand why the author went there, but I guess I'm just a true romance girly inside, and I wanted a particular storyline that we would go deeper and further into, and also have a different ending for that, and that just didn't happen. But except for that, I think I liked everything. I think there was one part where I thought it was kind of slow, and I understand that maybe people who picked this up don't enjoy it as much because of the pacing, but I also really enjoyed the writing style. Lee Schwab is very lyrical. I also loved the way she told the story, the back and forth between the past and the present. And also, let me tell you what this book is about. She actually makes a deal with one of the dark gods to gain her freedom, but he twists it in a way that she'll live forever, but as soon as people turn away from her, they forgot that they ever met. So Eddie LaRue is never remembered by anyone except one day when someone actually does remember her. There are just a lot of elements that I love in this book, and I can see a lot of people really enjoying this. I also enjoyed how art played a huge role in this book. And as I said, if you want to see more of my thoughts, then go watch my reading vlog for this. But yeah, I can finally say that I also read this book, since it seems like almost everyone has read it on BookTube, Book Talk, and I understand the hype around it now. I think I mentioned it like once or twice that my birthday was last month, and as a birthday girl, I thought it was only fitting to read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. And this one I was a bit scared to go into because I'm just not really into the whole age gap thing, because in this book you have Jordan, and she and her boyfriend lose their apartment, so they move in with her boyfriend's dad, and she finds him very attractive, and it's basically the romance between her and her ex-boyfriend's dad then. And you do have a bigger age gap, so she just turned 19 and he is, I believe, 37. And I just want to be clear, it's in a book, so you know, you can enjoy this however you want. I just think that kind of age gap is really not something I enjoy, especially since she was so young. And I'm saying that because the age gap does play a bigger role here. I feel like this book is perfect for a very specific type of fantasy. That type of fantasy to like get with your ex-boyfriend's dad or like an older guy. I gave this a 2.5. This was not for me, but I still would recommend it if someone wants exactly that, because it's very good at delivering that type of romance. I just don't like it, so I didn't love the way they brought it up the whole time. They focused a lot on her being young. And as I said, if this sounds like something you will like, then I definitely recommend it for that. I think it's very entertaining, but would I say this is universally a good book for everyone? Definitely not. I know that a lot of people like this, that's why I wanted to give it a try. And also this was my first Penelope Douglas book, and I wanted to see if her writing was for me. And that's also another thing that I don't think I'll love her writing that much. I guess she's very descriptive and she doesn't have that much dialogue, or at least it felt that way in this book, and it really took me a while to get into the book and into the relationship. And this is more of a slow burner, even though it's very spicy, but because of the circumstances it took them a bit longer, and I think it was very fitting. I also liked that she was still very realistic about the whole scenario. Like, the book, I think, didn't romanticize something. Even Pike's best friend was very realistic about, you know, expectations, other people's opinions, and I do like that she put all that in here as well. So it is a great romance, but it's also not completely delusional that this is something that's uncommon and that might bring problems in the future, and I appreciated that. So I'm not saying this will be my last Penelope Douglas book, but I'm also not rushing out to buy other books from her. Then for my last book that I want to talk about for August, that's actually the one I listened to, and that is Only When It's Us by Chloe Lees. I hope I'm saying her name right. And this is kind of like an enemies to lovers new adult romance where she's actually the soccer player, and they both meet in college or university, and they don't have the best start, but that is due because she thinks he ignores her, but actually he has a hearing problem. He lost his hearing 2 years ago, and he has a difficult time adjusting to his new reality and also working out how his hearing aids will really help him. And since he got deaf, he also doesn't really talk. That's why he not really ignored her, but why he didn't even hear her talking to him. But due to their first impressions, they don't really like each other at the beginning, but they have to work together on a project in university, and they kind of become like frenemies. I want to say something about this book because I don't think it says it on the blurb, but I feel like that's an important part because this book also deals with a heavier storyline. So Willa's mom has actually cancer, and this is not a story about her battling cancer and beating it. And I kind of wished I would have known that from the beginning. And I feel like that could be something that someone would be triggered by. I don't know if there is an author's note at the beginning because I didn't read the book. I don't have it physically with me. I just wanted to say, so just be aware and consider that when you go into the book. And for me, the book was a solid romance. I gave it 3 stars. It had good elements, but I was also not really invested in their story. I just think that they were frenemies because of their first impression was kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but you know, he had a valid reason why he didn't talk to her at the beginning, and I feel like that could have been cleared up and then you just move on. I didn't really understand why they had to make like such a big thing out of it to still stay frenemies for a very long time. I think this book was trying to be almost like a rom-com, but then combine it with really hard, difficult, sad topics, and sometimes that works, but for me in this book it just didn't work. And I also want to say, since I listened to this one, I think audiobooks do have a big influence on how you enjoy a book as well. And I'm not really a huge audiobook girly. I listened to this one because when I was sick, I couldn't really read anything, so I wanted an audiobook. But I don't love consuming books over audio because obviously the voices and everything, they always influence my experience with the book. And I don't really want any outside effect on how I read a book. And I kind of have to confess something to you guys, and I feel like that, like, it is so stupid, but when I try to find an audiobook, I don't even want to listen to an audiobook where I think I would really enjoy it and it would be like a 5-star potential 4-star, because I'm like, no, if it's a really good book, I always want to read it. But then I look for audiobooks that I will enjoy but not absolutely love. So that is already stupid, because then I consume a book where I think it would be like a 3-star maybe, and then consume it in a way where I will enjoy it less. So the 3-star might be bumped down by 2 stars because I consumed it over an audiobook. And I know that is not really logic that I'm using here, but I haven't really found the best way how to deal with audiobooks. And it's not that I listen to heaps of audiobooks. It can't be the best way that I'm already looking for books that will only be mediocre for me. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And please let me know if there's anyone out there that feels the same, that if you think you will really, really love a book, that you would much rather wait until you have the time to read it than listen to it. I think I wouldn't mind if I listened to an audiobook of a favorite book of mine that I already read, but I just don't want my first experience with a book to be the audiobook if I think I will really, really love it. Yeah, I don't know. Tell me if anyone else feels the same. But yeah, with that little rant about audiobooks, we already wrapped up August since I didn't read that much. But again, I just want to say, it doesn't matter how much you read. It doesn't matter how much I read. It's about just enjoying reading in general. And I hope you had a great reading month as well. If you only read 1 book or 10 books or 20 books. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe for more bookish content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!